Across our nation, the fight for justice and equality continues. When we talk about a movement, we talk about people, everyday people who choose to stand up for their communities.
We can't wait to end poverty because every day we do wait, we thrive less as a society.
We shouldn't just be asking folks to pull themselves up by their own bootstraps, but we should be thinking about how we can continue to reach back as we continue to move ahead.
Only then, when we listen to communities and work on their behalf with them, in support of them, will equity be achieved.
The Shriver Center works on what I call the front lines of humanity every day. And I think their work is, in Daddy's name and in Daddy's legacy, but in our time. I think the lawyers and those who work at the Shriver Center are doing their own work. They're building their own legacies, maybe in the spirit of Sergeant Shriver, but they wouldn't be there if there wasn't something burning in them. His belief wasn't like, let's go around and, where's the next Sergeant Shriver, but to ask yourself, where are you? What are you doing? And he really believed that he could eradicate poverty in this country, and he wanted people to see how people live, and he thought by getting you to see and getting you to feel, you would change.
In Chicago's Latino community, a young woman, Graciela Guzman, saw the critical need for helping people understand and enroll in healthcare coverage.
My family immigrated to the country from El Salvador back in 1989, right around the time that I was born. When we first arrived, didn't speak a word of English, and my role in the family was always translator. Around that time, my grandfather became ill, and in the process of that, as an undocumented person in this country, I saw what his experience was like. He passed away shortly after, and being so young and hearing the hospital try to justify why they weren't taking care of my grandfather and have to relay that to my family was difficult. Navigating that healthcare scenario is what I try to avoid.
The Shriver Center has trained nearly 2,000 healthcare navigators like Graciela to help their communities access the information they need to get healthcare.
And so when I think about the impact of what happens when we don't produce change right now, when we don't start implementing actionable change soon, it's not just times lost, it's lives lost. And it's human capital. It's economic capital, but for me, what matters most is that human capital, that quality of life.
In Fairmont, Illinois, a small rural town just outside of Chicago, Delinda Herod is fighting the construction of a proposed 4-lane highway that would divide her town in half.
My parents moved to this home here in 1959, I believe. So I've been here for you could say all of my life, minus a year or two. Because you hear the little bit of noise that we can hear right now? Imagine if a 4-lane highway was right behind us. That's what they're proposing to do to me personally. We're going to be sitting at our homes looking at a highway. And our kids are going to have to get out here each morning. That could be 4 trips per day crossing that very dangerous highway for our children. So I don't like anything about that. So we have the lowest property value. So that makes us the lowest hanging fruit.
The Shriver Center has helped the residents of Fairmont demand more public input and a reevaluation of the route selection from county and federal authorities.
We couldn't have done it without them. Without Kate Walls and the Shriver Center, we had voices, but we didn't have a means of getting their attention. But they have no choice now that it's moved over to a Title VI civil rights complaint with the Federal Highway Administration. You can't ignore the federal government, and that's what it took to get their attention.
In Calumet City, workers are pushing to increase the minimum wage to $15 for all workers, including tipped workers who currently earn only $4.95 per hour.
Hay algunos restaurantes que no pagan el salario mínimo. Yo trabajé, incluso me pagaron hasta $2 de mesera. Yo en ese tiempo era mamá soltera. Yo quisiera que toda la gente de los restaurantes donde no les pagan el mínimo, que hablen, que levanten la voz. Eso va a haber más pobreza si lo quieren dejar así.
The Shriver Center, in partnership with local advocates in El Centro, are working to ensure the one fair wage policy is strong and covers all workers fairly. Sabeth represents one of more than 4 million tipped workers in the United States.
La gente no va a pedir algo más porque quiere, que los escuchen.
In East Chicago, Indiana, a century of development in the steel and railroad industries has left a legacy of pollution in the community. Akeisha Daniels is fighting for justice.
Last year this time, we found out that we were living on top of a lead refinery. I had been in a West Calumet housing complex for 13 and a half years, where I've raised 3 sons. We received a letter from the mayor stating that we had to move out of the complex due to the lead crisis. Inside of my home, we tested at a 32,000 with lead, 800 with arsenic, and I believe outside in the soil was 91,000. My children had had a lot of bouts with like scarlet fever. My son Xavier has ADHD, asthma, and he was allergic to 30 out of 60 things that he was tested for. Now my 19-year-old has had a lot of digestive problems. We've had tonsils and adenoids removed for so many bouts of strep throat, and now we have scoliosis where he has a curvature in his spine at 19.
The Shriver Center ultimately won an agreement that ensured residents receive comprehensive relocation assistance, more time to find housing, and no longer have to make rent payments for their contaminated units.
And I thank the Shriver Center for everything they've done. Fighting with housing, giving us an extension on different things, just things that they did that no one else came to our rescue to do. And I want to publicly thank them for that because nobody else came. Nobody else showed up.
One person's story is an anecdote. One court case is a footnote. We choose the stories and cases that will change a whole system.
We can't wait to create a more just and equitable society because it's long overdue.
The opportunity to be a part of that, to help make that happen as an individual, I mean, that's a team that I would want to join.
At the Shriver Center, we're all here in this fight together, supporting each other, figuring out how to fix any number of problems. There's a community here of people who care, who've dedicated their lives to this work, and who are not giving up.
At this moment in the history of poverty law, I don't think we can look back and say we haven't been given a great gift. We were given a great gift. The lawyers of today were given great gifts by the lawyers in the 60s and the 70s and the 80s who built this center. The question now for those who believe in it is what will they leave to the future?
We can't wait because we've waited too long. The time is now.
Join us in this fight for justice, every day for everyone.